we're actually going to be interviewing a guest whom I've known the longest of all our Throwback Thursday guests thus far. Carolyn Green, welcome to the program. Say hello.
Thank you. Hi, Colin. Hello, Colin's class, Mr. Green's class, actually, I should say.
Yep. I've known Carolyn for 30 years, I think, just about 30 years exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly 30 years. And so I've known Carolyn for a long time. She is my cousin. Carolyn, I don't really know what it is you do, though. Could you please explain maybe to the good people at home, the viewers of Office Hours, the students of New Bedford, Massachusetts, what is it you do?
Yes, thanks for having me, Mr. Green. I am dialing in from Boston, Massachusetts, and I work at Fidelity Investments. So at Fidelity, I am in their marketing department, where I am in charge of developing a marketing campaign for all of our digital solutions. So it's very exciting. Lots of hard work, but I've been at Fidelity for 3 years and in the financial services industry for 8 years. I've been working.
8 years. So we knew each other for 22 years, and then for the last 8 years, you've been working in financial services. That reminds me, Carolyn, I heard a lot of words just then. I heard marketing, campaign, digital. Did you say digital solutions?
Yes, digital solutions.
But I think the word that was I know the word that is on a lot of people's mind starts with an M, but it's not marketing.
No, it's money.
Money. People want to know about money. People have a lot of questions about money, and I figured that you, as someone who works for Fidelity Investments, they're all about money, and it's all about, you know a lot about money and how it works and where it comes from and where it goes. We put out a call to Office Hours viewers to bring us their questions about money, and I certainly can't answer them. So I'm hoping that you can. A big question that people had is, how is money made?
Money is made, well, the actual physical money is made with a printer. So when we talk about paper money, there's actually a printer that the Department of Treasury prints itself. So we use paper, and the paper isn't like the computer paper that you use every day. The paper is really, it's kind of made of like a cotton and linen with a little bit of other paper materials too. And then of course you have your coins that are metal, but those are printed in Washington, DC and Fort Worth, Texas, the physical money. That's how.
And so you're talking about cash there. So when they print the cash.
Yeah.
Now,
yes.
As someone who works a lot with money, how much is cash being used these days? I hear some people say that we're moving away from cash. Other people saying that cash is king. Can you describe that a little bit more and talk about how that works in your industry?
Yes. So fun fact, there is $37 trillion that are being circulated within the United States, which is.
Wait, slow down a second. 37 trillion.
Trillion. Yes.
Trillion?
Yes.
How many zeros are coming after the 37 in that number, 37 trillion?
Oh my gosh, Colin, you're putting me on the spot. I haven't done that in so long.
12? Is it 12 zeros?
It might be 12.
Probably. Okay. We'll get the fact checkers on that later. In the meantime, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Carolyn.
No, it's so much money because regular people are only dealing with such smaller amounts. I mean, you go to the store and you only use $1 to buy a soda. So it's pretty crazy to think that number is being circulated just in the United States alone. So that's the physical money. But to your point earlier about all of the other kinds of money, there's the cash. There's also credit. So people have credit cards where it's not physical money, but you do have to use your physical money to pay off those credit cards. So you have a credit limit. So your credit limit could be $5,000 and you can spend up to those $5,000. But if you only have $1,000 in hand, it's better off you only spend $1,000 so that you can pay that credit card. And that's more that's not physical, the credit card itself.
And who's keeping track of all this money? How do they keep track of where it's going and how it's going there and where it comes from?
That is a good question. So personally, I think it's important for yourself to always keep track of your money and make sure that you have a budget, to make sure that you are keeping track of what you're spending and how much you're spending. But the credit card companies also keep track of that. So if at the end of every month you get a bill of how much you spend from the credit card company, you're expected to pay that bill every month. So that's why it's important for you to also keep track of how much you're spending and where that money is going.
Mm-hmm. So that's important information, I think, to keep in the back of the mind. Um, Now, this is a question people had. Like, what jobs tend to get a lot of money? Where do people get a lot of money in different jobs?
Yeah, so I think there's so many different cool jobs out there that you can end up making a lot of money in. I think the most common jobs that people think about that people can make a lot of money in are doctors. They make a lot of money. Lawyers can make a lot of money. Engineers can make a lot of money. So the people behind the scenes developing some of the machines that doctors end up using, they can make a lot of money. Um, you Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, he had this great idea and acted on this idea, and he invented Amazon, where you can just buy whatever you want and have it shipped directly to you. So, and then of course there's also finance. If you work in finance, you can end up making a lot of money, but yeah, you always have to work your way up to those higher level jobs in order to make a lot of money.
So, why is it that some jobs make more money than others, or so much more money? Can you
Good
talk a little
question.
bit more about that and where that value comes from?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of it comes down to your experience and your knowledge. So a lot of the jobs I described, a lot of them require a lot of education and schooling. So these doctors and lawyers, and a lot of time financial professionals go to school, they go to high school, and then they go to college, and then they have to get more education after that. So medical school, law school, getting your master's in business. So a lot of it does require a lot of education and a lot of knowledge in order to perform in those roles. But then, of course, there are people who maybe go into acting right out of high school or join the NBA. So there's definitely different avenues, but I think the underlying way to get the most money is to get as much experience and as much knowledge as possible about that certain profession.
That makes sense. And you have a lot of experience in your industry. You said that you've been working now for the same company for 8 years, or different companies in the same industry?
Different companies, same industry. So I started off at a insurance and financial firm called Voya Financial, and in there I was developing training for our salespeople and our account management people to help them sell our products and services. And then I actually had a brief 1-year stint at a tech startup, still in marketing, but it was a software startup that I ended up leaving after a year to go back to my financial services roots. So I've been at Fidelity for 3 years now in their marketing department. So I would say quite a bit experience.
So this most recent job has been your longest period, like 3 years so far. It's 10% of your life, right? Not to put a number on
Yes.
it. But
Yeah.
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 So I guess another question is, so since we're talking about time here a little bit, how long has money been around? We know how much is circulating. You said $37 trillion, but like how long have people been using money to buy things and earn money and you know, assign value to our lives and that kind of thing? How long has this been going on?
So funny you asked that, because I was thinking about that earlier today, and it's no one actually really knows exactly when money was invented, because if you think about this, it goes back to the Stone Age, where people traded certain, or maybe not the Stone Age, but people traded, whether it was an egg from the chicken that they own for a piece of firewood. That in and of itself was kind of the beginning of the thought process of money, trading something to get something back in return. So but I think when money was first, when paper money as we know it today, like a dollar bill, was first invented, was I think around 700 BC in China. I think that's the actual time. But in the United States, I did look up, in the United States, the first money that was used, it was 1793.
1793.
And
So that was like
pennies.
right after, the formation of the Republic and the Constitution and the rest of it. So we've
Yep.
had money flowing around this country for a long time. Not necessarily $37 trillion, but there's a lot of money going around.
We started out with $100.
Started with $100. The pennies, you said, was the first kind of currency they had. Since we're talking about this country, this is a question that a viewer submitted, and I think it's a really important one. I think as we're getting to the end of the interview, I'd like to kind of reflect on it a little bit. This person asks, how can we use money to make something good for this country?
I love this question, because I think right now, especially, we're seeing a lot of opportunity to give back to our communities, and a lot of ways that people have been giving back is using the money they have to donate to certain charities. So I've personally donated to food banks in Boston, so that these food banks have the money they need to buy food they need to provide for families who might not have that money to get their own food. Or people can also donate to cancer research to help pay doctors to find a cure for cancer. People can donate to certain schools. I donate to the university I went to make sure that there's financial aid for other students to be able to get that education that I so luckily was able to get. So I think donating to, whether it's a charity or a cause that you care about, I think there's a lot of great ways to give back, to use money to give back to our country.
So you can put it to work, put the money to work, and to help
Yeah.
other people's lives. As we are getting to the end, I want to thank Carolyn Green for coming on to Office Hours. It's a pleasure to see you again. We've been we've known each other for such a long time. This is one of the closest guests we've had.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for agreeing to come on. I do want to ask you, as we leave, do you have any final words for the young people of New Bedford, Massachusetts, or the viewership of Office Hours generally? Anything that you would want the young people to sort of take home or have at home and reflect on and think about?
My final piece of advice when thinking about money and talking about money is to save whatever money you have, and if it's possible, to put it in a savings account at a bank. So go open a bank account, put your money in the bank, and put it in a savings account, because it will just continue to grow, and it's exciting to watch your money grow. So if you have the opportunity, put it in a bank account, save as much as you can, and listen to Mr. Green.
That sounds like very important information. Well, on that note, I want to thank everybody for tuning into Office Hours. Thank you, Carolyn, one more time, and we'll talk later. From New Bedford, Massachusetts, Mr. Green. Take care of one another. Peace.
Bye. Thank you.